Every great downfall begins with a nearly harmless sound. The crack of ice before an avalanche. The creak of a door before the storm. Mine began with a laugh that, today, echoes in the silence of boardrooms and courtrooms. A laugh he aimed right at my face. In the kitchen I decorated myself. When I asked him a simple question about a name I didn't recognize. He didn't know it then, but in that moment, it wasn't my trust that he broke. It was the leash he had placed around my neck. This is the story of how I used the power he thought he had over me to dismantle the world he believed was his alone. If stories of strength and justice like this resonate with you, hit like and subscribe. You won't want to miss how this game was won. I was what you'd call the ideal partner, the pillar, the safe harbor. I managed our life with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker. From our household finances to planning our perfect vacations, I orchestrated the harmony so that he, the creative genius, could shine. My sacrifice was silent, a proof of love that I believed was the purest kind. I was proud to be the woman behind the great man, never realizing I was living in his shadow. Today, I understand what author Bell Hooks meant when she said, "Love is an action, never simply a feeling." And his actions, however subtle, were already painting a very different picture than his words. He made the big financial decisions alone, always with the excuse of not wanting to overwhelm me. He'd say my talent was to care for our nest, and his was to ensure the nest was golden. I would smile and accept it, mistaking control for care. The first clear sign, the kind you choose to ignore, wasn't a shout. It was a whisper, a charge on the corporate card, a dinner for two at a restaurant I'd always wanted to visit. On a night, he said he had a late business meeting. When I questioned him lightly, he just smiled. "Honey, I had to impress the client, so I took my assistant. You know how the market works, and I, wanting so badly to believe in our fairy tale, accepted it." The relief I felt was the first layer of the lie I told myself. Then came other whispers, purchases from luxury stores that never made it home, justified as gifts for the team. His phone, once forgotten on the sofa, now lived face down, protected by a new complex password. Every question from me was met with a tired sigh, as if my curiosity were a burden. "You're so tense lately," he'd say. "Why don't you relax? I'll take care of everything." He wasn't just lying to me. He was making me believe I was the crazy one. The moment that nearly tore the veil happened on a rainy Tuesday. He was in the shower when his phone, left on the nightstand, lit up. A notification, a name, Amanda, followed by a heart. My blood ran cold. My entire body froze. He walked out of the bathroom, saw my eyes fixed on the device, and understood everything. In one swift move, he grabbed the phone, and before panic could take over, he laughed. "Amanda? That's the nickname the marketing guys gave our new project. You're so jealous. You know that?" He hugged me, and I let myself sink into that hug, feeling like a fool for ever doubting him. The relief, once again, was false. It was just self-deception, giving me a moment of peace before the war. The intuition is the soul's alarm system. I know that now. Researchers like John and Julie Gottman talk about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in a relationship. And contempt, they say, is the kiss of death. His laugh wasn't a joke. It was contempt. It was the deadliest horseman galloping through our living room, and I was trying to convince it to stay for dinner. You're at the turning point of this story. If you feel that shift from heartache to strategy, make sure you're subscribed. The silent moves are always the most powerful. The truth doesn't knock. It breaks down the door. And mine arrived in the form of a leather folder left in the home office. It was late April, and I was gathering our papers for the annual tax return. Among the statements and receipts, there it was, an elegant folder with the gold engraving, "Private Investment." My first reaction was pride. He was building even more for our future. I opened it, expecting to find stock certificates or investment bonds. My eyes scanned the first page. It wasn't an investment. It was a contract. A 12-month lease for a luxury apartment in the most expensive part of the city. An apartment I had never seen. I read the lessee's name, his name, and next to it, as co-lessee, the name that haunted my thoughts, Amanda. My body went cold. The following pages were invoices, months and months of payments, jewelry stores, trips to places he claimed to hate, romantic dinners, all on the corporate card that I myself had approved. In that instant, the sound around me vanished. The only noise was the rustling of the paper shaking in my hands and my own short, painful breaths. There were no screams. There were no tears. There was only a terrible clarity, a lucidity that burned. The betrayal wasn't just the affair. It was the architecture, the meticulous fraud built with my money, with our money, right under my nose. And in that silence, the final piece clicked into place. His laugh in the kitchen wasn't to reassure me. It was to humiliate me. That's when a phrase from Bren Brown, which I had read in some book, exploded in my mind. Shame cannot survive empathy. He never offered me empathy. He used shame as a weapon to keep me in my place. At that moment, sitting on the office floor, surrounded by the proof of his betrayal, I made a decision. The shame was not mine to carry, and I would never be silent. Again, I didn't confront him. I closed the folder, put it back exactly where I found it, and walked to our bedroom. The pain was physical, a pressure in my chest that made it hard to breathe. I cried. Yes, but not for the loss of him. I cried for the loss of the woman I had been. The woman who believed blindly, who made herself small to make him feel big. And as the tears dried, a new woman was born. A woman who wouldn't seek revenge, but justice. And she would do it with the same meticulous care he had used to deceive me. The next day began my silent transformation. While I still served him breakfast and smiled, my mind was operating like a command center. The first step was to scan every document in that folder. The second was a phone call to the best divorce attorney in the city, a specialist in financial fraud. The third, opening a secret bank account in my name. The fourth, hiring a forensic accountant, a discreet man who became my greatest ally. For weeks, I lived a double life. At home, I was the devoted wife. Outside, I was an investigator. Every bank statement I printed, every suspicious email I archived, was a brick in the foundation of my new life. I was no longer managing his assets. I was reclaiming mine. With every discovery the accountant made, every new proof of hidden accounts and shell companies, I didn't feel anger. I felt a growing strength, an intoxicating clarity. I was finally taking care of myself. I learned that the best answer to arrogance isn't confrontation. It's competence. My pain turned into data. My humiliation turned into documentation. I didn't want to destroy him with a scandal. I wanted to rebuild myself with the truth. And the truth was that half of everything was mine, by law and by right. And I wasn't leaving a single penny behind. The day of the meeting arrived. A mediation room on the 20th floor of a glass building. He walked in with his lawyer, exuding the same old arrogance. An expensive suit and a condescending smile, as if he were about to negotiate the purchase of a used car. He looked at me, expecting to see a broken woman, ready to accept whatever crumbs he offered. He didn't see me. He only saw the woman he thought I was. My lawyer, a woman of few words and immense presence, wasted no time on sentiment. She didn't speak of broken hearts. She opened a dossier on the mahogany table. A thick, perfectly organized dossier. The one I had built. She began to speak, her voice calm and lethal. She presented the forensic accountant's spreadsheets, the statements from overseas accounts, the copy of the lease agreement. She detailed the fraud, the depletion of our marital assets, the slow-motion camera of my memory focused on his face. The arrogance dissolved, giving way to confusion. The confusion turned to disbelief. The disbelief morphed into pure panic when my lawyer delivered the final line. Given the irrefutable evidence of fraud, we have already filed an emergency motion to freeze all known and tracked assets, pending a fair and final settlement. The silence in the room was absolute. He looked at me, his eyes wide, searching for the woman he knew. She was no longer there. It was my turn to speak. I leaned forward slightly, and in the steadiest voice I had ever had, I said, I asked you a question 6 months ago, remember? About Amanda. This is the answer. Now, if you'd like, we can discuss the terms. The game had changed. The power was no longer with the one who had the money. It was with the one who had the truth, The process was swift, the justice efficient. The judge didn't hesitate. Today, I no longer live in that house. With the resources the law guaranteed me, I started my own financial consulting firm. I help women understand their money, protect their future, and never again depend on anyone's goodwill. Sometimes, in the middle of a meeting, I hear a client's laugh. A laugh of relief, of discovery, of power. And I smile with them. It's the only laugh that matters now. From this journey, I left with 3 certainties. The first is that financial literacy is a form of self-care. Understanding where every dollar goes isn't about distrust. It's about being a partner in your own future. And if someone resists that partnership, that resistance is itself an answer. The second is that contempt is a full stop. You cannot build a future with someone who laughs at your concerns. Disrespect is not a comma, it's the end of the sentence. And the third, perhaps the most important, is that your most radical transformation happens in silence. Not in the heat of confrontation, but in the quiet of preparation. Turn your pain into data. Turn your anger into strategy. If anyone ever tries to make you feel small for asking a question, remember, your intuition is your compass. Your intelligence is your weapon, and your dignity is non-negotiable. Don't wait for them to give you back your power. Simply take it back. If you believe that knowledge is power and that every woman deserves to be the protagonist of her own financial life, comment below. I control my future. Hit like if you have also turned pain into strength, and subscribe for more true stories of those who bravely chose to rewrite their own endings.